So, most of us are aware of the perils and tragedies that transpire during a Mercury retrograde. We are always, unable to find where we're going, technology isn't working, transportation is a hellish undertaking, everything seems to not work well. On that note, where do we find ourselves when we have not only Mercury retrograde, but Jupiter retrograde, Neptune retrograde, Saturn retrograde, and Pluto retrograde at the same time? Okay, so these other retrogrades don't tend to get quite the airtime that a Mercury retrograde gets because Mercury retrograde tends to play out very physically and obviously. It plays out in the world around you. You see it very clearly. This is one of the reasons why Mercury retrograde has become so, collectively popular and everyone's aware of it. It also happens about 3 times a year, whereas some of the other retrogrades happen only once per year and some only once every other year. But we have found ourselves during a summer period of time where we have 5 planets retrograde at the same time. So yes, we are going to be having Mercury retrograde that goes in soon. Around the time that we come into July, Mercury will go retrograde, and it will become the 5th planet to go retrograde. And I've already done very serious, very studious explanations and channelings of these individual retrogrades, which I will link below. This video is more about the combination of it all. The picture that it paints when it all comes together. The chaos that ensues when 5 planets go retrograde at the same time. And the humorous undertone that we can kind of allow this to take in our lives versus something that is completely destructive, chaotic, and fearful. This is a period of time that has a lot that we have a lot to think about with, and a lot of us are making really important decisions with our lives. A lot of us are at a crossroads. A lot of us are, honestly, truly having an incredible personal transformation, redefining our selfhood, finding our path. All yada yada, all of those things. Not to downplay those things, but you also can't get too serious with those things right now. You've got to be a little bit humorous with yourself. You've got to laugh at yourself a little bit. You've got to not get too stuck, not get too stagnant, not get too overwhelmed with things, not getting over encumbered by the minutia of it all. You've really got to kind of let go and find trust during this time and not get too attached to anything. Okay, so attachments are a big thing right now. I've gone over that a little bit. If you guys subscribe to my Patreon page, I've talked a lot about trust and attachments and communication and gone really deeply into those things at a spiritual level. And that's not so much what this video is about. This video is a bit more lighthearted and a bit more, humorous, hopefully. Hopefully we can take a moment back here to laugh at ourselves, laugh at our situations, and come through it all with humor and ease. Humor is a great thing for dissolving false attachments. Humor is a great thing for reminding you of your own, inner ability, inner strength, because there's something about it that really expels negative, heavy, difficult energy. Okay, so things not to do during a quintuple retrograde season. From what I'm seeing about this particular one, and I think it's most likely this Jupiter retrograde speaking here, is you've got to be careful about succumbing to impulse. And that connects to the Neptune retrograde because Jupiter is square Neptune, and this feeds into hysteria and paranoia as well, psychological testing. So the impulse drive is very connected into psychological wounds or psychological tests. So someone who's too impulsive during this time will inevitably deal with paranoia and even hysteria in some cases as well. There will be, like, the impulse happens, you do the thing impulsively, and then you will, after having done the thing, look back on it with a sense of paranoia, like fearful that something will come of that impulse that will trap you. Fear of confinement is also connected to the Jupiter retrograde as well. We have the Jupiter semi-sextile Saturn in Capricorn. It's not the strongest angle in the world, but there's something about it. I've talked to other astrologers, and we've come to the agreement that the Jupiter semi-sextile Saturn is an interesting thing, being that they're both retrograde, and that Jupiter is square Neptune, because it just makes them all kind of feed in together in not the most equal of angular ways, but nonetheless they come together. So again, a connection between impulse, paranoia, and confinement. I see a lot of people trapping themselves right now. I see a lot of people, due to their own guilt or their own regrets or their own inner exaggeration of like the consequence of an impulse. They like trap themselves and confine themselves into something that is very austere and difficult to cope from. So that is really the first thing that I've been seeing lately, is you've got to be careful about the impulses. You've got to watch the sudden, fight or flight response. Like, okay, I need to tear into this person and tell them how I feel, or, I got to get out of here. I got to move somewhere. I got to go out of the country. I got to do some crazy thing. You've got to watch out for these sudden impulses. You've got to plan. You've got to strategize. It's important to put things into place before they come due. So making plans in advance, thinking about what you're doing, having good insurance policy, whether that looks like real insurance or, like the insurance of time. Time is good insurance right now, giving yourself time to do things, knowing the general time of when something may happen. This is important right now for sure. Okay, the next thing not to do during a quintuple retrograde season is to push people or to make other people uncomfortable. Most people are at wit's end in some way, and it's most likely that if you have sort of selected someone in your life that you like need to like push, or you need to like tell them how it is, or again you need to like tear into them or something, it's very likely that that person has come in as a very tense, explosive personality during this time, and it may not be very obvious. People will act unpredictably during this time if you push them in an unfair way. You don't want to be demanding of people, and you don't want to present things that other people can interpret as uncomfortable, because everybody is working with discomfort right now. Everybody is redefining what comfort is to them, seeing what truly makes them uncomfortable, and truly very capable of identifying discomfort. That is one thing with all of these retrogrades. We really look back, we really see the past, we really see what's behind us, and we start to really be able to identify what worked and what didn't work. And because of this, people want to be true to themselves. People want to give themselves a reality that they like and love. So they will very easily identify something as uncomfortable and push that away, and want to maybe even see that suffer a little bit, which is a whole nother thing that we could talk about. That's not so great either. But yeah, you just have to be careful about pushing people, or I don't know, psychologically playing with people. Anything that is deep, heavy, Neptune, foggy, Pluto, things that represent traumas, things that represent deep pain, and pushing that or playing with that can really bring about undesirable results during this time for sure. So yes, don't push people during this time if you can help it. Another important thing not to do during quintuple retrograde is to succumb to a lot of self-doubt or not feeling like you have enough energy to do something. It can sort of test your energy a little bit. You might be feeling like, you carry yourself differently, or you might be feeling like, the way that you usually feel when you go to work is not how it is now, and there could be fear like I'm feeling fatigued or I'm feeling not well. That is more in the head than it is in the body. And of course, there are people who might be ill, or people who might need to change their lifestyle to support their bodies more, but for a lot of people, this has more to do with what you're facing and what you're doing, and your brain and your body really selecting this as like not right, and it being a signal that what you're doing needs a bit of a facelift or needs a bit of a change, something that makes it more authentic and more enjoyable for you. If you're feeling ill, or if you're feeling not able or too fatigued, you really have to look at what you're doing, and does it need a change? Does it need some kind of renovation? It is a good time for renovations during this retrograde. You can really go back and see the old cracks, see what you didn't like from before, and fill them. And really coming towards September, once things start moving direct again, this quintuple retrograde season lasts a long time, very long time. The Mercury retrograde doesn't last as long, but Saturn and Pluto will not go direct until September, and then Neptune is November. So, but by September, things will feel much better. Okay, the next thing that you don't want to do during a quintuple retrograde season is to overthink things. This is connecting to the Neptune retrograde, which again, I have a whole video on if you want to check out below. This is Neptune retrograde. If you overthink things, it becomes like a psychological game. It becomes something that never ceases. It never ends. You can find endless layers during this time. You think about something deeply, you think about a person deeply, you think about a relationship deeply, or your own existential crisis deeply, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes. It's endless. It's so deep. It's endless fathoms of thinking. And we can really get ourselves trapped in a spider web of that if we're not careful. So I'm kind of suggesting a bit of distance from super deep thinking. And, even this type of content is quite deep in its way. So it might even be good not to, go crazy with all the psychic YouTube channels and, yes, thinking so deeply. Or it might be at least best to select those psychic readers who kind of understand that this period of time is not so much about, going as deep as you can and as far down, because you can really drown in your own energetic experience if you're pushing too deep right now. It's good to keep things a little bit more shallow and surface level if you could. I think we're going to have a really nice time around October of this year. Once we get towards Scorpio season of 2019, Libra and Scorpio season, that's going to be a good time to go deeper. But I can't really suggest, in my opinion, that it's much of a smart or intelligent idea at all until then. You don't want to procrastinate during this time, and at the same time, you don't want to overwork. So this time does really force us to find a balance of energy output versus energy conservation. And this has been something that has been on the line since about the beginning of 2018, and I think that these few months here in the summer really solidify that. So a lot of problems can come from procrastination, and a lot of problems can come from overworking. So you do have to be smart, intuitive, strategized, and laid out regarding what you need to do and when you need to do it in your life. At the same time, with Saturn retrograde, it's going to be impossible to make it perfect and beautiful. Making the perfect timesheet or the perfect schedule, having the perfect planner, not quite possible right now. And how do we do it? I'm still trying to figure out. So I would love a comment below from any of you who feel organized during this time or feel like you're at least, finding some kind of success with, scheduling and strategizing and planning out your day and time. What are you doing to do that? Comment below. And I think that everyone can agree it's not perfect right now, but having just not thinking too hard about it, but having an inner gut knowing of what it is that you need to accomplish and letting yourself do that in a way that is healthy, with, eating and making sure that you're, not work. Because some people can also way overwork during this time, people who are starting new entrepreneurial endeavors. That's a big energy line right now. And I see a lot of people, working days on end, sleepless nights, not eating in a whole day. There are times where that can really be looked back on as a defining experience where you really built something great. But I don't think that this will be one of them. You have to be pretty flexible and adaptable. We have a lot of mutable influence, as well as the Capricorn influence, which really makes us employ self-care and regiment and healthy work style, but can also tend toward overworking if it's presenting somewhat negatively. But yeah, we have to be adaptable. We have to be knowing what our body needs. We have to know when to eat, when to drink, when to do all these things, and when to work. It has to be very streamlined and instinctual as well. Another thing you have to be careful of during this quintuple retrograde season is assuming that other people know your needs or wants. This is a big thing that I've noticed. Pain and falling out coming on result of people having thought that their friends or spouses knew what they wanted and chose not to give it to them, when in reality they just didn't know what they wanted or needed. So here we get back into communication, and I've talked all about it for the last month or two. Being able to communicate what you need, being able to communicate what you want in this moment, that is paramount right now. You have to be able to do that. And if you can't do that, you will see that people don't just know it. Our intuitive sense is a little bit different than usual, Neptune retrograde. And we really have to use our communication to communicate versus our gut feelings versus our, predetermined thoughts. I think this is what that person wants. I think this person is that type of person. I think this person is doing that, but I don't actually know any of this to be true, and it's not been communicated to me. We have to watch out for that type of thing, because assumptions can be very wrong during this time for sure. Another thing you don't want to do during this time is lie. Retrogrades make weird spider webs for lies or white lies, And that one's simple. I'm not even going to take time to elaborate on it, but a great time to embrace honesty, a great time to finally tell the truth or to finally communicate what is real in your life. Really good for that, but not a good time to lie, for sure. Um, Next, not a good time to convince yourself that things have to go back to the way that they were. Again, strong retrograde emphasis relays a message of the past, it relays a backward motion. And it's never to go back to the way that things were, but it is to view it in a retrospective state where you can understand how to become stronger in the present. So we have to watch out for seeing the past activated or seeing things the way that they were and think, I have to go back to that or I have to get back into that mold. Because there can be a bit of a temporary comfort in being in like the exact same mold that you were like a long time ago. But that is only temporary and you don't want to sustain it for too long. Okay, and the very last thing not to do during a quintuple retrograde season that I have thought on so far is to not be subscribed to my YouTube channel. I hope that you will subscribe to it because my posting schedule is going to be a bit random over the upcoming month because I am kind of doing a bit of rebranding and kind of working on some new formats, you know, getting on camera, doing different things. So be sure to subscribe to my channel. I also may be changing my channel name sometime in the next few months, so hit the subscribe button so you can like find it. Because typing in esoteric healing in the future may not bring it up. So yeah, you can click the center of your screen actually right now to subscribe, or you can click on the various other subscribe buttons that are all around provided by YouTube. Hit that subscribe, and I am so thankful to everyone being here. You can check the description box below to find my social media. I have an ebook coming out. You can pre-order that. And yeah, thank you so much for being here. Comment below how you're doing. Hit the like button to get this out there. And we will be talking soon, everyone. Much love. Bye.